Hi, you're with Scott. This is Battery Exhausted, my vlog. It's midnight, it's always midnight. This is your right ear and this is your left ear. So, you might notice there's a change in camera because today the power's gone out, so all my camera stuff is at home, and whilst the camera does work with batteries, I took my computer around to my sister's house so that I could upload the little thing that I did, and I thought, since I'm sitting here for a little while looking after the dog for a little while, since I'm sitting here I might do a vlog in the really lo-fi, traditional way, just by switching on the computer and talking to it, to you. Where's that puppy? Come here. There she is. There is the puppy. Here is the puppy. Oh, are you a little puppy? And I'm looking after the little puppy. Oh, she looks like Rue there. She's not like Rue though, she's very different, aren't you? You're very different. I have a little personality. And I wanted to do a talk about apprenticeships, which seems appropriate, doesn't it? You want a little food? Give me a kiss. No, don't attack me. So, me and this little puppy are going to tell you about apprenticeships. Because I was an apprentice once, and there's just been, the television's on here. Well, you can't hear it now because I've turned it off. But the television was on here, and there was an advert that our government has paid to put on the television. Our government is pushing this apprentices thing at the moment, and the advert basically said, I had 5 different choices for university, and I told my parents I was going to be an apprentice, and they were like, oh no, but it turns out really good, I'm straight in the business, and I do 4 days a week working, and I still get a degree, and apprenticeships are great, be an apprentice basically is the big message. And I wonder how many of those ministers from the Conservative government, how many of their children will be an apprentice, and how many will be going for a degree. Because it's still true today, despite what they say about the apprentice scheme, you're better off getting a degree if you want to get a better job in society. That's still the case today. You're better off getting that degree. It's still very costly to get the degree, and that's an issue, but that's not what this is about. This is about apprenticeships. I've been an apprentice, okay? Like this little apprentice here. And so I learned when I was an apprentice, not just about what I was learning about hairdressing, but also about being an apprentice. There's a flaw in the scheme, and this is why the government want the youth to do it. Right? We'll come on to that later, why the government wanted to do it, but there's a flaw in the scheme, and that is, if you sign on to become an apprentice, any business, whatever it is, whatever it is you're doing, hairdressing, engineering, whatever, there's no guarantee of a job at the end of your apprenticeship. So what they tend to do, certainly in the hairdressing industry, is they treat apprentices like cheap labour, because of course they don't have to give apprentices the same rate of pay as a regular employee. But the apprentice will come in and do lots and lots of work. And if you're an apprentice like I was, and you have to do the menial jobs like the cleaning and the this and the that, even cleaners get paid more per hour than me, the apprentice, doing the jobs. Yeah? Is the onus on the employer to teach you things, to help you to learn? Well, when you get qualified, you have to go and look for a job, or they have to give you a full paid job. So no, they don't really want you to get qualified, they don't want you to be in that position of power, they want another apprentice. So when you get qualified, they boot you off, sorry, we don't want to pay all that money for an employee, we want an apprentice. And so they get a new apprentice in, and the self-perpetuating cycle keeps going. The apprentice wage when I was an apprentice was £100 a week, and it had been for some many years. An apprentice's wage is not linked to inflation. So if you're an apprentice, you're probably getting less money than apprentices were getting some years ago, and will continue to get less money than apprentices in the future will continue to get less money. It's not index linked. It's not, guaranteed rates of pay. And then there's the fallacy that the employer is paying to train you or is training you, and that costs money, and so that's something that they're putting in. Well, I worked it out with my hairdressing apprenticeship, because I then went on to college afterwards, that if I'd have just paid for the college course, I could have paid for it 3 times over with the money that the salon was saving on my wage. So really, the apprenticeship scheme benefits the employers. It doesn't benefit the people at the bottom who are trying to get into the system, the apprentices, because if you do manage to succeed despite their lack of desire to drive you forward, then you become obsolete within the business. Their business has a place for an apprentice, it doesn't have a place for an employee. And so without a guaranteed job at the end of it, it's kind of useless. And what you end up doing is spending all this time and money and effort training, living a really difficult life on, crappy wages, and at the end of it, you don't even have a job. So what's the point? I had to then leave my apprenticeship scheme, go to a proper college where I could get continual education rather than bits and pieces while I'm working, and actually practice doing the job. Because one of the weird things about the hairdressing was that in the educational environment, we had clients come in and we could cut their hair and practice and learn, but in the commercial environment, I didn't have many clients because I was an apprentice, and who wants their hair cut by the apprentice? So I only had sort of once weekly clients, and even then there was a greater onus on getting the job right for the client rather than teaching me lots of different things. So I felt the education was better at a dedicated education establishment, and then the job prospects afterwards, once I was qualified, were the same, if not better, than someone who'd been an apprentice. Because someone who'd been an apprentice, when they go for a job, they say, I've been 3 years as an apprentice. And when I go for a job, I say, I've been an apprentice, but I've also done a year's qualification. Like, at the end of it, I know this sounds weird, but the person who's been in work for longer sounds like less of an option, because why haven't they stayed at their salon? Why haven't they given you a job? Are you good enough? Have you just been an apprentice and just sort of managed to scrape your qualification? Because this other guy, he's fully qualified, and he's not messing about with apprenticeships. He wants to be the real thing. So I found it easier to get jobs once I was fully qualified, not through the apprenticeship scheme. And I found the apprenticeship scheme held me back. And the truth is that when I was an apprentice, there were 2 other hairdressers as apprentices at the same time, and they both now got their own salons. I ended up having my own salon, but none of them worked for the company that taught them the apprenticeship or that gave them the opportunity to learn within the company. None of them still work for that company, because as soon as they got qualified, I think they put up with it longer than I did, but you don't get such a good deal. You're treated like the apprentice still, because they see you as that. And it's really, and then you see people coming into the business that haven't done the 3 years, because I did those 3 years hard work. Well, actually I didn't do 3 years, I did a year, because for the first year I was over the age of 18 when I did it. So for the first year they paid me under minimum wage, but then I had to get minimum wage, it was legal, and then after that, surprise surprise, my job didn't still exist. But what I was just going to say was that they treat you like an apprentice, they see you like an apprentice. And people were getting the job. So they advertised for the stylist position while I was an apprentice. And I was like, but isn't that my job in 6 months' time? And obviously it was a real kick in the teeth to see somebody come into the business and take the job that you're working hard to get to. So I felt like, the apprenticeship scheme was a bit of a shitter. It certainly left me in the shit. It didn't do me any favours. I didn't learn as much in salon as I did in the educational establishment. I wasn't ready. The weird thing was as well, they wouldn't teach us to cut hair until the very end of the course. Because of course, once you can cut hair, you can go and do the job. So they keep you locked in as an apprentice. They keep you without that final skill set, so you can't leave. And you're getting a crappy wage and you're doing all the crappy jobs. They don't even have to employ a cleaner. So it's a system that can be abused, And the reason it can be abused is because there are no fail-safes for that. There's no guarantee that you're going to succeed. There's no guarantee of a job. And the system for businesses, by having an apprenticeship system, it means you always need apprentices, because you create a role in your business that can be fulfilled by someone who's not as skilled, who takes a smaller wage. And when they're qualified, you need another one of them. You don't need what they become. So it's not exactly what it's cracked up to be. And of course there will be exceptions, and people will succeed through the apprenticeship schemes, and some businesses will groom someone for a role because that's the ethical and responsible thing to do. But that's not the way it works across the board, and there are no fail-safes to prevent it, to make sure it happens, whatever. And my MP, Nadeem Zawahi, he advocates the apprenticeship scheme quite heavily, but I doubt he's ever been an apprentice, and I'd like to know if his children will be going to university or whether they'll be becoming apprentices, because what I see, my feeling on it, is it's something that's being advertised. Oh, this is where we're going to come on now to the very end point. Let's line it up by putting my hand near it. You can line up? No. There it went. Yeah, so the most important point at the end here, which is like, why is this being done by our Conservative government? Well, it's being marketed to the working class youth as the better option, better than university. What I'm saying is, though, that university is now not the prime option for the working class youth. They can't get out of their ghettos because they're going to be encouraged apprenticeships. That's the way to go, and they're going to be left unskilled, unemployed, and their skills that they learn might not even be transferable to other jobs. If it's a thing you do with your hands, like with hairdressing is a good example of this. If it's something you do with your hands, then you can't necessarily go and get another job, because you have to do the same thing. You're stuck in your position. So it doesn't help for social progression, for social movement in that movement through class. And I had to learn all these other skills as a salon owner to drive myself forward. But if you take a degree, then it's generally in its nature something more intangible. It's a level of qualification of thinking, and so you can go for other jobs that aren't necessarily in the same field as your degree, because you can prove that you can learn to a certain level, and people accept that if these jobs are not tangible, make a certain item job, if they're not manufacturing industry or whatever, then you can transfer that skill, that thinking skill. So that's why apprentices are shit. There's one other point to make quickly, actually, which is that if you sign up to an apprenticeship after you leave school, then you're not unemployed, are you? So you're not getting the minimum wage, but you're also not taking benefits and not coming up on the unemployment figures, which is good for the government. So, in conclusion, apprenticeships are bad. Well, they might be bad, and they could be made a lot better if there was a job guaranteed at the end of it. They're a means of the elite, social elite, political elite, financial elite, keeping their children as the elite by sending them to university and convincing the working class to not go to university. University is definitely the best step up in social mobility. If you're from a working class background, there's already enough barriers preventing you getting to university, financial, social, and a step on from this matter of apprenticeships, we should also be looking at the university sector and saying that it should be publicly funded, it shouldn't be run as a business, individual universities shouldn't be run as a business, and there should be grants for all, or maybe financial means tested grants, because there are a lot of people who can afford to go to university and a lot of people who can't. Education for all, equality for all, no exceptions. Be good, my little Pukkos. I'll see you tomorrow for some talking on the microphone with a nice camera, and who knows what I'm going to be uploading. Who knows? I'm losing subscribers, so if you like my work, then share it and help it to grow, because the things I do actually diminish my subscriber base. Okay, thanks very much for watching. Be good, my little Pukkos. Back to normal tomorrow, hopefully.
broken these dark